Rep Radio, an Emory production. Since 2009, our goal has been simple. We support, promote, engage, and inspire the arts community by igniting the ghost light that shines on the stages of the up-and-coming, the unsung heroes, the brilliant writers, and the dynamic designers. Our podcast breaks the fourth wall to give you an inside look at the plays and the players. Stay tuned. Rep Radio is on the air. Today on the podcast, I spoke with Chris Davis, one of the hardest working solo artists I have ever met. He rose to the occasion in this current situation that we are in. His work is ready to go at a moment's notice, and we are so happy to have him as part of our community. Here is my interview with Chris Davis.
How are you?
Considering, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
good. Just I don't know. Just taking it literally day by day. I think I've been saying that now for 60 days though. So
yeah, I know it's like there's a lot of justifiable stress. There's a lot of justifiable anxiety, and I'm seeing all the good. The theater community is still trying to stay engaged, which I do think is good. But at the same time, it's like it's hard to escape into something joyful or thought provoking if you're sitting here hearing what's today's counts and whatnot, and but then there are other people talking about how this is a potentially creative moment for us. Now we can think about some of the things we can do in the future, but it's hard to do that if you're trying to make sure this check clears. So but yeah, I've been following, I see the emails going out. I'm so glad that I figured if anybody could figure it out, it'd be you to figure out how to do something in this. But I was quietly kind of sitting back and thinking, like, I don't know who wants to reach out to a little podcast and talk about, how they've had to move everything online. But at the same time, I guess there is some value in knowing how people are carrying sort of the show must go on mentality.
Yeah.
I guess. I definitely did want to talk to you because I had been following Edinburgh Fringe, and all the emails that came out, through all of this. I knew this was going to be such a tough call for them. And when they actually decided to close for the year, they got a lot of responses from that. And just before that, I had been following their podcast series where they were talking about, if you're somebody new who wanted to go to Edinburgh Fringe, here's some things to think about, here's some resources and things like that. And now that we've ramped all that up, we're you'll be ready for 2021. What were your thoughts? Because I know we had talked about before how you got to get this airfare like in January to make sure you're not raked over the coals and that you have a seat, period, to get there in that time. So how did you feel when you heard that?
Fortunately, I had not booked my flight. So, and I had not paid. And then I think that's why they announced it when they did, because probably about a month later, everyone was about to start paying all the fees. So it was actually, in some ways it was a relief because I didn't want to wait and worry whether it happens or not. I'd rather just a decision be made. And I felt like after the Olympics were moved, there was probably no chance that it would happen. And so it was a relief for me to just, start getting ready for a different thing and just have to forget about Edinburgh for this year.
Mm-hmm.
I do think
And
it's a shame, but I mean, I think, and you know yourself, because you came to my show in Edinburgh, in the basement of a bar, all the seats crammed together, and you know, you can see why it can't happen, because it's just,
yeah.
you know.
I mean, most of those you walked out and you know it's raining outside, so you're dressed for the rain outside, but you're inside and it feels like August, and you've got all these people in here. I remember going to this one event that was I forget the man's name, but he was playing a Disney prince who came out as gay and sort of rethought all of the Disney songs, and that was the show. And
Nice.
it was in a bar upstairs. It was jam packed and crammed in, and I remember saying like they're going to squeeze everybody they can in here. It was free fringe,
Yeah,
and they were also, you know, it was like we got to let as many people who want to attend
yeah.
in, because the bucket speech is what matters. It's like if we can get all these people to drop something in a bucket, it'll be worth it, and I don't think they will mind. But yes, how would we do that in this new normal?
I know, and you know, I think now, like, and it is scary. I feel like this is what's scaring a lot of theater people. You look and you're like, well, all these experiences. I went to Edinburgh for the last 6 years. Will I ever be crammed into a basement again with people really pressing up against me, watching a performer inches away from my face, which I
Yeah,
have experienced many times in Edinburgh? Will I ever experience that again? I hope so. But
yeah,
right, it doesn't feel like that's going to happen for quite a long time.
yeah,
And when I say long time, I think you know, years, and that's hard.
yeah. So we got the official words. You know, Friday the 13th. You
Yes,
know
that's correct.
that it was March 13th that the city was going to shut down. The stay-at-home orders were in place, effective. I think it was effective that Monday, and there were many companies who didn't have a plan for how people could work outside of their building, let alone how are they going to work from home. Period. Uh, where were you when you heard those announcements, and what were you thinking in that moment?
So strangely enough, I was working a job in Minnesota. So I've been working in hospitals as an actor where doctors give me bad news and I react to sort of teach them empathy. And I'm actually still doing this work now for doctors in New York over Zoom. Um,
Hmm.
and why I say this, because like I happened to be flying back March 12th, which was not, it was so, I just did not want to be in a plane. It was very stressful. I came back. So I was kind of like, when that news happened, honestly, I think like a lot of people, I just felt sort of numb for like 2 weeks, and I didn't do anything. I didn't think about doing anything, and I can't even recall what I actually did. I was just sort of in shock, I guess. And it took me like some people were texting me like, "Hey, are you going to do your shows? Are you going to do your shows?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess I should." And then I just was like, "I just want to do a show because." You know, I had been working on One Man Nutcracker. It was supposed to go to Edinburgh. It had all these productions lined up, and I was like, well, I should just do it. You know, while it's easy, and put it online and see what happens. And it was just really super simple in that sense. And it was more for initially it was just to raise money for myself, and also just to it was really to do something because I was
Yeah,
so bored. And that's why I've just kept doing the shows, just to stave off boredom, essentially.
yeah. um, is so you're not a stranger to doing shows in your living room.
No, no.
Uh, I do remember attending a late night show in your living room,
Yes.
and but I guess the difference now is that, you know, I guess any sort of beats or pauses that you would make to for an audience to respond, they're just not there. So I I guess in a way it sort of feels like you're doing a full run rehearsal,
And
but
I'll
you are
say this
recording it.
too, which I was really surprised at. For me, at least, it still feels live. I still feel that there's an audience there. I don't actually. I mean, yes, I would love to hear their laughter or their reactions, but because I went through Edinburgh so many times, I've done shows where there have been no reactions or laughter, and just deadly silence. And as a result, it's not all that unfamiliar territory for me to have. And so, like, it was not hard for me to imagine that people, that there is an audience. And I think that's what's nice about it, is like it still gives you that, like, once the feed starts and you're live, like, it's the stage, like you're on the stage again and people are watching you. What are you going to do? And so I still feel it, which is nice. I wasn't sure how I would react to that, but that was nice, because that's what you want. That's why you want to do it.
Yeah. I know a lot of theater artists feel displaced right now because they are working on theatrical pieces that have royalties and restrictions and all these particulars for how that work can be presented. But you are an independent artist who created your own pieces. So do you think anybody has any kind of I don't know if a one-up is really the answer, really the word I want to use, but is there any sort of benefit to the type of work that you've created in a situation like this?
Yeah, I mean, I do think, and I have a lot of solo theater friends, and I do feel like this pandemic is strangely beneficial in a way to solo performers, because there's just so few things you can do now in terms of, I don't even know if audiences want to see two people interact in one space, because you just think like that's not safe, that's not social distancing. So it's a weird sort of liberating time in that sense. And I think for the older theaters, the big theaters, yeah, it is always hard when you have a big system to pivot and turn so quickly. Obviously, some have done it better than others. Some have produced more than others, but we don't know in a year if any, how many will actually still exist, how many will be here. Like, will the brick and mortar theater, will it survive this? And I'm going to guess that a lot of them won't. And I guess that is the benefit of being independent. I don't receive any grants. I don't apply for grants. Everything is self-funded. So like I've pretty much been doing this with very little money for many years. And as a result, yeah, it actually makes it easy to produce my plays, because they were all meant to be like backpack plays, super simple. You show up at a place, you can do it, and then you leave, because that's what you have to do in Edinburgh with the Free Fringe. And so it is nice in that sense. What's hard is like just getting the energy to even force yourself to present it. What I mean is, like, it's hard to even, like, waking up is hard for for me many times. Just like there's so many days where I'm like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do anything. So by announcing my shows, it sort of forces me and makes me accountable to actually doing them. But I have to say, like, it is hard to get that enthusiasm right now.
Yeah.
I do feel fortunate to be independent and to be able to at least do something to communicate to the audience or to whoever's watching, which is a lot of people I know, and just to have like fun for 1 hour. That's it. Hopefully they have fun. I definitely have fun, and then we go back to dealing with our day-to-day basis. But that's the idea to me, is just give that 1 hour and forget about forget about what's going on for just a second.
Yeah. So you had your hand in quite a few pots with Sunday's Best and You Can't Fail and Solo Festival, which would have been coming up very soon. Is there any thought to how something like a solo festival could work in this new normal?
And Solo Fest will be happening. I am the only coordinator, which makes it take longer than it should, but it's just virtual. So Solo Fest will be like what we're doing right now, where maybe people make a Zoom and people sign in, watch their show or watch whatever they present. But no one will be physically going places. So Solo Fest will be happening just probably on a lot smaller scale with less participants, but online. And the same thing with Sunday Best, which is I've been trying to mess around with platforms and like see what platform I like. Like Sunday Best is only on Instagram because it has the split screen, which I like.
Yeah.
And Instagram is nice because it just feels like you can just like pop on. It's not like a heavy obligation for people. But like if I'm doing a show, I would want, Facebook and Instagram. Now I'm trying to learn Zoom. So yeah, I mean, all these events, people's events can occur. It's whether they really actually still want to do it. And some people do, and then some people can't, and some people don't want to go online. I mean, I do think there is some resistance to virtual theater. And I think that's probably, I mean, I think with any big change, you get some resistance, but I do think it's a little bit of a shame because it is a lot of new opportunities, and honestly, we have nothing else, so you should probably, I think, embracing it, even if you don't want to. It's like embracing it for what it is, like, is a good thing. Like, it's positive stuff you're putting out in the world. So even though, like, even myself, like, I don't watch a lot of stuff online. I don't do a lot, but I still try to support it. I'll still think it's cool, even though I might not want to watch it that day, and I understand that.
Yeah. Yeah, I did follow the I think it was the organization was A Step that did the big Broadway to do. It was on a Sunday night where there was a component that was supposed to cut between these pre-recorded clips and then these live moments, and it was delayed for an hour, and there were tons of
Wow.
conversation back and forth, and when it was all said and done, it had about 2 million views,
Wow.
which was great. But I felt like a lot of organizations were looking at these things and saying like, oh, so we can just get a Zoom account and be done with it. That'll be good. And we'll just hand that off to our tech savvy person in our in
Right.
our office to make them fully responsible for it. But the one thing I did appreciate about these things is that there is still a community. Like when we watch the Tonys or any of the Oscar award ceremonies, there's often a continuous thread on social media where people are commenting about like who won or what they're wearing or what just happened there. So that sort of engagement still works. But when I think about it, I like to physically go to a space and shut out the outside world. Um, so I see a lot of these virtual offerings, and I must say I have not partaken in
Yeah.
in any of them really. I mean, it's partly because I'm on the press side, and if you're not reaching out to the press, then I'm not going.
Yeah,
I wasn't your audience anyway. I'm kind of like your promotion.
I think it makes I don't think you're alone. I think a lot of people are having trouble engaging the virtual things. I mean, I produce these virtual events. I have trouble engaging them. And sometimes it's sort of like you're having a bad, maybe you're just depressed because of what's going on and all these things. And you're like, oh God, someone's got a show. Oh, they're gonna put it online. Like, come on. And like there's this weird like it's natural. I mean, it's like it is really hard. And as someone who is doing shows online, and I also have trouble watching them and not watching as many as I can, and feeling the same thing, like, oh, I just don't feel like it. Yeah, I think that's now, if we're still in this position months from now, obviously, I think just people will start to embrace it because they're just like, okay, I got to see something. But yeah, right now is not an easy time. And there's a lot of virtual stuff, of all different caliber, of all different quality, but it's not live. Yeah, it's not going to be right in front of you, and it unfortunately cannot reproduce that
Yeah.
feeling. So that's
There. So you get around the world with your art. Um, you travel and go to different places with your work. Have you communicated with any of the artists that you would have communicated with in person in those spaces during all this?
yeah, I have. I mean, just through social media. Obviously all my Edinburgh friends, I don't know, we haven't talked that much. She's like, what do you say? It's got canceled
Yeah.
for the time ever. You're like, okay. I mean, it's weird. I assume if I go back in 2021, I assume I'll see many of them. But I don't even know what to say to them. And then, but the cool thing is, like, also I had some friends, like when I first did my first show, it was April 1st, which was a time people were really like, okay, this is the new normal. And I had friends from England and Germany watch they like stayed up till 1 a.m. and watched the show. And I was like, oh, that's so cool that happened. And that, so that's why I put Eastern Standard Time on the things now, because people are watching in California. And I've had a lot of people from my past watch shows, friends I hadn't heard from in over a decade, even like donating money. Like, it was interesting to see a lot of past connection, and also because they can finally see a show that I do, because,
Yeah.
physically it was quite challenging. And I think that's one thing theater should definitely embrace. I mean, I've been thinking about film a long time, but trying to engage in a global audience is a cool problem to have. We're so used to the local and so used to just what's right around here that, the cool thing about the virtual offering is that, anyone around the world can watch it if they have access. And that's actually pretty amazing. Now, you might not have a lot of those people, but that's still really, I don't know. I just think that aspect is exciting, actually.
Yeah. I remember talking to I when I posted that Edinburgh had canceled, I
Mm.
was thinking about everyone I had the opportunity to engage with. Um, when I was in Edinburgh, there were a lot of people in New York who made their way over, and I expanded sort of my artistic connections. And I
Hmm.
thought about it would be nice to kind of talk to all of them in this situation now to kind of see how they're faring, and um, what sort of adjustments had to be made. Um, I I was also trying to figure out how do I sort of ignore the politics of the day,
Hmm.
because I didn't necessarily want us to feel like we have to be immersed in it completely, like, and you can't even, in certain places, like if you're a YouTuber, you can't even really mention it without being demonetized. So there's sort of tough things like that. And I remember, so April 21st um, is Rep Radio's anniversary. So this is the beginning of our 11th season. Welcome. Um,
Awesome.
I remember being at a meeting in 2009 asking this group of small companies what they thought about podcasting, and we were calling it new media at the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were saying that it's a lot of work. It's not, and it may not be worth the reward. Like the return on investment may not be justified. But I'm seeing a lot of people try to figure that out now. Like,
Yeah.
how do we
Yeah, they
continue
are.
to
They're like,
engage
no,
these
no, what
people?
microphone do you use again?
Yeah, like what's that? And is it yeah, but the funny thing is, like, it couldn't be easier now. I feel like a lot more people are talking, or at least trying to talk to people about how to get a podcast going. Now's a great time to create a YouTube channel,
Yeah.
and so on. Um have you given any thought to how if there's anything you can share about the way you create your work and how to think about it moving forward, because these are already backpack pieces. So they can travel, they can be simple. I'm pretty sure you could find some sort of generic backdrop if you wanted to, take away the atmosphere of a bedroom or a living room if you wanted. But I also see the big productions on television sort of scaling down their visual, I guess, in a way of like solidarity. When you think about some of these talk shows, like I know they could have sent you home with a red camera. Like it's
It is weird how some you're like, God, you have millions of dollars and you look like shit, Conan. Like,
yeah, and you're like trying really hard to like cram your studio into a corner in your room, in your study or something, or like you're outside, and the quality is not that great either.
no,
So I feel like it's probably great quality, and they're running it through like some shitty filter to make it look like everybody else's Zoom meeting, I guess.
that's weird. It is uncanny. I mean,
But
go ahead.
oh, but have you given any thought to like, is there something you can share about how you've been creating work all this time, and how people can sort of I hate the word pivot, but how they can sort of change how they think about this moving forward?
Why do you hate the word pivot? I'm just kidding.
I don't know, because it's a business buzzword.
Oh,
And
isn't it? Because
yeah,
now like all I'm doing is like, you gotta pivot the.
yeah. I think
I'll say that the shows I've been presenting are all old shows, so I'm actually not producing anything new for the medium. And I have lots of ideas, but for example, this next show, the last one of the living room, I am going to actually try to transform my living room. I'm going to make a set, and I'm going to try to use, and I've seen this, a few people do this, use the camera. So essentially move the camera around, have some like close-ups and stuff. And I actually bought, I don't have it with me, but I have this tripod that I can actually wrap around. So I can actually move the camera around while acting. And I'm going to try to create almost a cinematic.
kind of like this.
Yes. Same exact thing. So I have that same thing, and they're amazing.
Yeah.
And I bought those immediately after my first show because I was like, I cannot stand trying to figure
this. No.
But I'm hoping that will be cool to create a cinematic, especially because it's one man apocalypse now, which is a movie. And the show itself is pretty cinematic. So I'm going to try a little bit of that to use the actual technology, change the angles, change the views, but keep it live. Obviously, it's nonstop. There's no pausing or anything like that, no cuts. That's exciting for that show. It is an old show. In terms of like the future, I have not really written anything for what I think the future of this medium is. I like the Instagram split screen thing. I've been thinking about like 2-person scenes that are just pop up out of nowhere. You don't even advertise it. I saw a friend of mine do this. You just pop up, you do your little scene, and then shut it down. And and just as an experiment to see how that feels. And, because once you start advertising stuff, you have to make it a big event, but you can experiment meanwhile, which is what I think I need to do, because I'm not sure how to use it, the technology yet. I don't know if any of us are. And also, yeah, it's a good time also to do things not involving technology, like reading or writing. I've been reading, I just finished The Mill on the Floss by George Eliot. Her second book about rural English country life. And the cool part about this book was that, yeah, I kind of felt and related to a lot of their life, in the sense that like there's a lot of them just staring out the window or looking at the trees and stuff. I'm like, oh, I do that now too. I'm also staring at windows way more than I have in the past. I'm also cooking a lot, like it feels like it does feel like we've gone back 30 years, which is really weird. You're like, 2020 is the new 90? Because it really, I'm like, yeah, it feels old. Like it feels, I don't know. It's interesting to see how we've sort of moved backwards, but maybe that's a positive thing too. And like the same thing with this technology. You know, we don't know what it's going to be in 1 year.
Yeah.
It might change so drastically that we have to think of other ways. It might be that we can have live events again, and we're like, oh, we go back to not even. But I think no matter what, we're going to have a permanent change in theater in particular, and this virtual thing. I don't think it's going away. So I think it's
Yeah.
probably here to stay for a while. That's probably, I mean, yeah, like we don't, the thing is, none of us have control over this situation. We're just kind of like riding along. So it's like, you can have opinions, good or bad, but the reality is that if you want to make work and have people see it and perform it live, you're probably going to have to get a camera and put yourself on a camera and just see what happens. And if you can't do that, then you can't. But,
Yeah.
you know, I hope more performers embrace it. And they're just like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. Forget about it. I'm not worried about looking good or being like, I'm just going to do it just because it will be inspiring to other people. I think that's the other thing. You do your shows, it inspires other people to be like, okay, you know, I can do something actually. And
Mm-hmm.
that's important. Like I often have felt from the beginning, I was like, I don't want to do anything. And I have forced myself to do the shows, but it's fun to see people's reactions. Like people get really excited. So yeah, there's a lot of people not watching because they can't, but also for some people, this is a huge deal to them. Like you're inspiring them, you're making them happy. They thank you. Uh, you're making their life like a little bit better for this time. And that's why you're like, oh wait, actually I should just keep doing this because I am providing a really important service right now. And you know, if you look at it as like service, I think people and actors would actually be more inclined to do their shows. Like you're actually providing a service. That's
Yeah.
important. And you know, I won't get into the word essential because it doesn't matter to me, but it's an important service and you make a difference. And I've seen that. I really have seen that from the people that watch the shows. Like they're happy. They laugh. Like, you know, laughing is something that it's, you can be like, if you don't see anybody, you're isolated, you know, like you don't necessarily do it a lot anymore. But like when you get on these things, even that, and you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, you know, that's why I mean, it's funny because I feel like I really don't actually feel like doing a lot of these things. But when I see people's reaction, I think, oh, you got to do it. Because why not? You're not even doing anything else.
Yeah, yeah.
You're literally
I
sitting
can't.
at
I'm
home
so
reading
busy
all the
doing
blogs.
nothing now that I can't be bothered to do any of this. Yes.
Yeah, and I get sad when I've seen a lot of reactions. I don't know. I feel like there's this weird resistance to virtual theater, and I agree. I am resistant to it as well. But you know, what are you gonna do? You know, you're just gonna
Yeah.
like read the Mill and the Floss again. It's a good book though. It's a good book.
Great book. Read it 3 times. Well, the funny thing about it is it's kind of the same conversation as uh, so I saw Grease on stage. It was amazing, and then Fox put Grease on a complete sound stage, and it was trash.
No, I missed it.
This was Well, it wasn't trash.
I
It
remember
was
that.
a
I think.
it was a different medium. So it's like they realized, how do we produce Grease as a musical on television?
Right.
So they had to change everything. Like there were many opportunities where they broke the fourth wall and sort of pulled the camera back so that we could see how they were preparing for new scenes and how they were transporting them to other sound stages because they had that capability. And it was like, wow, that kind of makes sense. So it's a totally different experience. And I think um, you know, I think like it's been 2 months for us all.
Oh,
We
yeah.
should be thinking about what would virtual theater will not look like theater looked in black box theater. It will not look like it looked on the main stage at the Arden. It's going to look different. And now we have, so instead of saying like, how do we take this show we were going to do on stage, how do we create a show for the medium?
Yeah, and I hope Arden, I hope the woman, I hope the big 3 or 4, I hope they embrace that instead of measuring the distance between 6 feet of your seats.
Yes,
get a camera.
Yes,
do the show.
And I think there are a lot of non-traditional. Well, I think there's a potential for a new audience. It's not necessarily engaging the same old audience. And I think that that's what maybe scares a lot of the companies. It's like, how do I get those people from the tri-state area to come out on a Thursday night to our opening night, who would make efforts to do that, who would park, who would have dinner, nearby, and purchase subscriptions. How do I get those people to just tune in at their home? And they may not be the people you're trying to engage. It may be, like, for instance, just to name some names, Terry Brennan of Tribe of Fools, put a message out there saying, if you'd be interested in me just entertaining your kids for a bit, that there might be something I can do there. And that's kind of cool to think about, how you would do it. And I think it would be interesting to see a year from now if we continue this, because I really hope we don't let it go. I hope we don't drop. Like, there should be a part of, when I started my theater company back in 2005, 2006, I was thinking about, how do I get people to stay on the website, longer than to just buy tickets? Like, what else could I do for them there? And that's really where Rep Radio came from. It was like, maybe this is something that could play on the website, and they could actually hang out there, maybe minimize the screen and listen or something. Of course, podcasts are so much more easier. You can, most people do laundry while they're listening to a podcast, some sort of housework. But now we're thinking about, what else could they be doing while they're consuming this? And maybe there's I think it's okay to spend some time thinking about that, instead of saying, like, if we don't engage with this audience for within a week, we're going to lose them.
Right.
Because we have done this before, especially this community. 2008, 2009, we had to rethink because of the economy. We had to rethink, we can't do large scale shows that call for full casts. Maybe we have to simplify. And then we started seeing a lot of shows that only had 4 cast members, and they were intimate, very black box in style, but we had, we still had these full stages that we could take advantage of. So maybe it's things like that we have to think about. Well, it's, it's one space. And then also, remember, it was a couple of seasons ago when Tiny Dynamite did that show that was here and in the UK at the same time.
Oh yeah, I saw that show.
Yeah,
I can't think of the name, but
it was in the summer. It was like very early in the season. It was like the first show at the beginning of that season.
I remember that.
I'm sorry, Tiny Dynamite, for not remembering the name. But I remembered that being a really cool concept at the time, but now it's the norm. And I feel like that.
I went to go see that live because I'm with the playwright Emma Thompson, who used to run Tiny Dynamite. So I went to the preview, and I remember that. Yeah, that was.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe we'll see more things like that. Also, I saw there was a virtual presentation of the piece Buyer and Seller, which is a solo piece, with Brendan Urie. I think that's his name. I hope I didn't get that wrong. He was the actor who who performed it in New York to acclaim, and he did it in front of a camera at his computer. Did the whole show. Was like stood up, moved around, and everything. And I think it was a fundraiser. So I think there are ways to do it, but you know, in terms of that traditional theater, I think the traditional theater model has to rethink what the rules are for producing these plays are going to be, because you can't record them, you can't capture them. Now those rules don't allow for that, which is why your curtain speech always says no photography or recording of any kind. So they might have to figure out, maybe we do have to allow this so that they can make it available online, or it's only a live event.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a virtual season where, you know, Drunk Lion is available live on its opening night, but it's available on demand for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think one of the things I love is like when it is actually live. I think that's important. So, for example, if you had Drunk Lion live, you would even do something crazy like a run. Can you imagine if you're like, all right, for the next 7 days, I'm gonna do this show at 8 p.m. every single night. And I love that idea, because like when I do not want to watch a recording of any theater play, and I never have, and I don't know if I ever will, but I will watch stuff that's live. And I think there's something cool because here, you know, when you have a live event, it's a place, it's a time, and it's a commitment. And so if you do all three things, you simulate the experience of going to a theater. You got the place, the time's 8 p.m., and you've committed. You got your ticket, or you RSVP for a ticket or whatever. And then therefore it kind of feels like you're going out. It feels like you're engaging in, and you are engaging in an event. And I think that's good. I would prefer that over the recordings of old plays, which I've seen a lot of people put out there, and which is fine to put out there. I just think that we need stuff that's live, like, because we're missing connection. We're missing even like this conversation we're having. I think we'll both walk away from it saying, you know, this day is a little bit easier than other days because we had a commitment, we had a thing, we had this. And I think for me, that's so important. Like this Sunday, I know I'm going to have Sunday best, and I know I'm committed to it. I have to do it. It's going to be whatever it is, but it's like, it's something, it will help that day. That day will be easy to get through.
Yeah.
And so I think people want that, the live feel, as we're all trapped in these boxes, essentially on the East Coast. You know, we're all in these boxes, and you know, you move to a city to go out to enjoy the culture. You do not move to any city to sit inside your house, and that's really hard for a lot of people right now, for me included. But even, you know, a lot of people are definitely suffering from that, and this alleviates it a little bit. You know, we don't get to walk out to hundreds of acres of nature and forest and clean. We walk out, our neighbors are right there with a mask on their face. So city people are definitely have to deal with this, you know, the most, it feels like, because we don't have that space. But yeah, you create a virtual space. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I know. Never have I looked forward to the postal worker showing up with packages more.
Right.
It kind of reminds me of the scene from The Music Man when they're singing about the Wells Fargo wagon coming to town. And it's like, I wonder what it is. Oh wait, I know what it is. I've been tracking it for the last 10 blocks.
Right. No, it's all like a lot of us are all retired right now. Is what it kind of feels like. You know, days are slow, and yet they go by so fast.
Oh yes, many times. You know, because I don't get started as early as I do, as I normally did. Like, I at least have my digital office opens at 10 o'clock. And, you know, so that's an extra hour I kind of have where I can actually have breakfast with my partner.
Sorry, it's a phone call.
No problem. Where I can have breakfast with my partner. It just so happened that a couple of video games came out sort of at the same time that this all happened,
Yeah,
and that's been consuming a little bit. But I also surprised myself at how disciplined I was about not completely giving into this game all day
I
as
know.
well,
I know the
because
feeling.
I still set reminders like give me set a timer for an hour because after an hour I got to get up from here and do something else.
No,
But
I feel the same. I bought a game system at the beginning of this because I was like, "Oh, there's no way," and I only played
yeah.
one game, but I try
Hmm.
to limit myself to 2 to 3, 4 hours. Like
Uh-huh.
because you don't. Yeah, you get depressed if you're just staring
Yeah.
at the screen like that.
Because there aren't any new well, it's also a time where the old the old shows that you watched are sort of wrapping up their finales, and the new shows are on hold because they were still being filmed. So they had some sort of delay, or now they're trying to think creatively. I will say that one of the shows I do watch that I really hope they continue to do something in this vein is Saturday Night Live.
Oh, cool.
They have done they have all this I mean everything is from home, which I think could live on their YouTube channel all the time. Like any of the sketches that
Yeah.
get cut, like maybe they can find a way to present them and continue to do that so that they also have here's the polished live presentation when we're able to do that again, but here's the the idea as it was being cooked up over a virtual meeting
Yeah.
in these spaces. So it might be fun to see what they're doing. I think there's also a television show that planned to do an episode that was completely over Zoom, uh, which ought to be interesting. It's a legal drama,
Oh.
which I don't think is impossible, especially now. The Supreme Court is having a virtual hearing
Oh.
uh, um, today, I think, and so there are some things that might be interesting to see how they play them out,
Mhm.
but nothing makes me feel the value of the creative community more than the limitations of just going outside,
Mhm. Yeah.
um, physically going into a space where like-minded people came to
Right.
throw off the shackles of the day and give into an experience. Um, I mean, uh, my day job is sitting in front of a computer all day, so that then continue sitting there to be entertained. It's kind of, it's like, yeah, I can do this, but I would like to change the scenery a little.
Well, it's funny because it makes you, I think, cherish those moments you did go to the theater, and also
Yes.
realize, wow, maybe I should have gone more. Now that
Yes.
it's away, I was like, damn, I really should have just like binged out on plays right before this. Yeah, I had just seen a play by the Zuka play Ship by Doug Williams
Yes.
right
Hmm.
before I went to the
Yep.
opening. I feel like that's the last play I saw.
That was my last show as well.
Oh yeah, and I had a fantastic time. Like it was really great. And yeah, you look back, you're like, well will experiences like that happen again? And your only answer at this point for everyone has to be, I don't know, because you just don't know. We don't
Yeah.
know what the new normal will be.
Hmm. Yeah, I can only tell by the last interview I've done, and it was with Azuka for Ship, and I did enjoy that piece very much so.
Yeah, me too.
It'll it'll be interesting to see what the Barrymore Awards
Oh
is
my
like this
god.
year too,
Well, I
because
don't
like 2
I
months off
actually,
the radar.
I was nominated from One Man Nutcracker because I applied to be in the Barrymores this year. First time I've ever done it, and they adjudicated me in December, which was happens to be a great time to have done a show when you think about it. It's like, wow, I really lucked out in terms of the timing. And I'm like, well, is anyone gonna be nominated for a Barrymore this year at all? Like, because everything got canceled. Like, I'm just guessing they're just canceling it. But I was just imagining, like, I'm the only one nominated. I could sweep all the categories. I get the Oda, whatever, Odo Haas Award, $10,000.
You're like, when they touch base with you, what have you been doing? Well, I've been writing acceptance speeches.
Yeah.
And
best solo pro, but I and I'm the only nominated production. That's how I see it happening. But yeah, the Barrymores will probably, I'm just gonna guess they're gonna go virtual, but also I don't think there's any shows to nominate at this point. Like, cause they had just started their new year, I think. For looking at shows. Like Ship would be one of the last ones probably, or
yeah. I mean, technically it's only, I mean, it'll be the rest of this season
right.
that will not be a part of it. So from like probably April, like I know there were shows that were opening in March, mid-March, that never either didn't get a chance to open,
cancellations,
or only open to a day or two. Like we had our opening night and then we closed.
I felt so bad for all the actors and writers before. I mean, all the people that you invest all that work in your show, and like, I mean, my one friend's show got canceled opening night. No opening, and that was it. You're like, oh, okay, yeah.
I really hope if by the summer things get back to some sense of social, if we have some sort of social opportunities in the summer, I really hope that those shows that were supposed to open will just open. I think maybe there just isn't a summer break. We make up for this time if we can return to sort of normal business with social distancing. Maybe we'll just have a summer where we are, unfortunately but fortunately, competing with the beach.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. I mean, if you look at live sports, I feel like it's a great indication. Like, as long as they're not happening, because that's like $1 billion business.
Yeah,
I don't feel like theater's ever gonna happen until they figure out like whatever they do with that. Yeah, it's gonna be. I really do feel though, you can conjecture. Everyone has thoughts, but the only answer is you don't know. No one knows. Like, no one knows. Even the people in charge obviously don't know anything. And at this point, it's like, there's just so much. I mean, there's just a new wave in South Korea where everyone's like, oh, things are better. There was a new wave in China. They have new things happening there. That's, I mean, pretty much guarantees that will happen here. Considering that South Korea has managed it so much better than we have. So I just feel like it's like, buckle up, get ready, because your life is not going to be the same for it's not just this year anymore. And I feel like, I mean, I don't want to be negative, but I do feel like we're looking at years of change and perhaps permanent change. Like, it is interesting to think about, when will people shake hands again? When will people ever kiss each other on the cheek if they're, if they're from France or Spain again? Like, when will little cultural things happen again? I don't know. I think they actually all will happen again. But I just don't know.
And how much does the theater community embrace each other every time we see each other? It's like, oh my God, I haven't seen you, and there's a hug and a kiss, and like, we're such an affectionate industry. It's going to be really hard to kind of like, I kind of felt this way like when some of the scandals were coming up, where we were kind of in our mindset of sort of like keeping a distance, respecting each other's boundaries more, and thinking like, but it's what we do. We like hug, and I just met you, but we're family, because we're in the community. And I wonder.
Oh, no more hugs. That's for sure.
It will be interesting how that would happen. However, what I think would be a really great idea is if you commit to a cast and a production team, and if there is a way for you to kind of not necessarily quarantine, but sort of steal away together for a period of time as a collective.
Oh.
Maybe you could produce something together because you're all in the same space. Like, I was thinking now's the time where people are going to start planning like camping trips where they're going to be out in the wilderness, and maybe they can be in those spaces together. Maybe there's a process that allows us to say, okay, these 20 people, in order for us to work on this together, we're going to have to sort of quarantine for the next 20 days where we're going to bang this out and then go back to our lives in some sort of safe thing. So maybe that's something that people have to think of, because I can't imagine how uh, a production team can mount a show uh, without working with those same people in a very consistent basis to keep themselves safe. To maybe they're in one spot building a set and putting that set in place, but they've been together the whole time, and the cast is somewhere else rehearsing, and they've been together the whole time. But that's going to change how many artists get paid, are compensated for these
Yeah.
events too. It will be interesting. Um, I think quietly we should probably look at this as the rise of the solo artist.
Yeah, I mean, I
There
think
might be a great opportunity there.
there are for some, but also it's the rise of just a really big, massive change. And when there's a huge change, there's people that embrace it so much, or there's people that turn away from it. There's people that dislike it, and it's just, I think, yeah. I mean, yes, I keep saying we don't know because I really do think we don't know, but we do know one thing, which is that everything we did has changed in 2 months, and we're in a new place. It's unique. I don't think, in our lifetime, in my parents' lifetime, there has not been anything like this. And
Yeah.
so no one actually knows what to do. Um, it's just a confusing time to figure out how you deal with this. Like, is this, can you, I mean, and so like it's hard. I can imagine for a lot of people, just mental health, and because you wake up and like dealing with this, and you say you already had mental health problems before. I mean, this could be a huge trigger, a huge your lack of social contact. It's scary to think about all the people. I honestly, from the beginning, I've been thinking about all the people like, well, what if you don't have a bank account? What if you're cashing your checks? What if you never did your taxes? You didn't have a job that was W-2. You don't have unemployment. Well, what happens to these people?
Yeah.
And that's really kind of terrifying. Like, there's just, I feel like the risk of a lot of people just, especially here in this country,
Mhm.
just not having a way to survive is pretty, like, I feel very fortunate because I have unemployment. I have a college degree. I had a job and so on. And I wonder about like the people that live on the street, the people that were already disenfranchised, already suffering. Like, and I actually, because I bike a lot, and I see like particular people I know now because I pass the same places and they live out on the streets, and like they are in, like, it is a crisis. Like, but the thing is, it was happening before coronavirus.
Yes.
It's just now it's like it's more prevalent than ever. The streets are empty, and you feel like you can see it more. But like,
Yeah.
until our society can figure out, how do we address these people? How do we help or take care of these people? And clearly, the answer the United States has given is like, oh, we just ignore it, or we don't care. And that should not be an acceptable answer, obviously.
No.
But so I'm just thinking about them and like worried, about that, and I, especially even in my own neighborhood in Point Breeze, just seeing the people here, and I know a lot of the people some of the people that are addicted to drugs, and I've been here 5 years, and I know them, and like it's just a really I wonder what's going to happen, and I wish there was more I could do to help that, because that's really a tragedy of this too, that the people already suffering the most, as we know, will suffer even more.
Yeah, and how many of them do not have the technical capabilities to connect the way we are connecting right now?
Oh my God, so many. Or the education, the internet. A lot of theater artists have been talking about, and it's true. A lot of people don't have internet. And you don't even realize that, because you're like, oh, everyone has internet. No, actually, a lot of people don't even have cell phones. And they don't have internet, and they don't even know how to use it, because they were not educated on how to use it, and it's tough. Hopefully that gets addressed. It's funny because you're like, I go out to my yard and I can see the Comcast tower. It's the tallest building in Philadelphia, and it's full of it's billionaires, and they control the city in this weird way. And it's like, why can Comcast do something? Like, couldn't they like give internet to these people? And they could, and they choose not to. Which is sad. You're like, that is sad, because they could make the world a better place. They could make people safer, healthier, more educated, and they say, give me $50 a month.
Yes.
It's just a tragedy, because they have the opportunity to do something really amazing, and they choose not to. And also, like, the city, it's funny because you're like, it's a perfect symbol. It's literally the biggest building in the city is looking at you and like, hey, fend for yourselves. And that is just like, all right, well, it's just it's sad, it's tragedy, it's unfair, it's everything. And I think about that all the time with this whole thing happening. And that's when you think about that and you're like, oh, I'm not so worried about theater right now, because there are bigger things that are happening.
Exactly. Yeah, I have felt that way. Well, Chris, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me today. Tell us when we can tune into One Man Apocalypse Now.
All right. I'm going to give all 3 events. I have a busy month on the internet. I have May 17th, your Sunday best, at 9 p.m. on Instagram at One Drunk Lion. Then I have You Can't Fail. That was a big event I've been doing. That's going to be really cool. That's on Zoom on May 20th. At 8 p.m. That's going to be amazing. All different artists from all different genres interacting, and it's going to be a really wild, fun time. I actually think that one's going to be really great for people. And then finally, I'm doing my final show, One Man Apocalypse Now, the entire movie in under 60 minutes. That's on my Facebook at Chris Davis Philly, or Instagram at One Drunk Lion. And I do think that show is actually appropriate for what's happening now, which is feeling very apocalyptic. And it feels like we're all going insane. I feel like it's like that show is actually like a crazy show, and I feel like when I do it, I'm going crazy. So hopefully it's good for the times.
Yeah. Well, I will. This conversation, even though we did it over video chat, will still be audio, because that's what Rep Radio is.
All right.
But thank you so much for chatting with me today and giving us some information. And be sure to touch base with me when Solo Festival kicks off, because I would love to follow that and see how it works out.
All right, Darnell. Thank you.
All right, Chris. Thanks a lot. It was great chatting with you today.
Good seeing you.
Rep Radio continues to be inspired by our community and listeners like you. We are proud to be an Emory production. Visit us online at em3ry.com. Ride with us. Emory is on the move.